yourself from the fetters of this world. Loose your soul from the prison of self. Seize your chance, for it will come to you no more. Oh, my people, you've got to free yourself. Oh, my people, you've got to free yourself. Oh, my people, you've got to free yourself.
Good evening, and welcome to the show. First off, I'd like to say thank you for tuning in, all you guys that have been tuning in. I see that some of you guys have been listening. Stats come to me every Friday to my email, so I see people are actually listening. And yes, we are still going to switch over to the talk format, but first we want to build up, a momentum of some sort. Okay, so today
and real quick on that note, before you get going, as we always try to welcome you all to please present any feedback, because if you're listening, we need to know what you're thinking, what you're hearing, if there's any feedback, we are open. Okay, we want to put that out at the beginning.
Yeah. Thank you, by the way. Yeah. Today we're going to go over some of the stuff we talked about last week, and as far as cycles, things happen in repetition. We're still in the month of October. It's still Anti-Bullying Awareness Month. Any of the other things that we mentioned earlier this month that are in the October cycle, as far as recognition goes. Also, we're going to talk about we had a good youth group today. And so normally we would not do the show it's supposed to be bi-weekly, but because of the conversation that we had with the youth group today, and because of some stuff that my wife went to Orange County and she got to go to a pretty good devotional today and had heard from a good speaker. So the stuff that's inside of us, is just coming out. So we're going to express it, and we're going to talk about some of the stuff that went on, and it ties together, and it actually ties together in cycle in this speech that we're doing about cycles, or this talk that we're doing about cycles.
Because we were talking about it last week. We were looking at how it's the fall, and that there are changes that will be going on. There's certain things that should be going on in the natural world, and sometimes that will apply to our physical truths, our personal truths of how we live our lives daily. We may have to do certain things in the fall to prepare for winter. I know we got to get used to the bills going up on some of the heat, maybe. Some people are getting their propane heaters out, and just to be light on the topic. But there's so many cycles. There's people going back to school. Kids are starting to get their first grading points coming back, and we'll get an idea of where our youth are in their studies and what type of help they may need, and we need to keep them focused. And there's a rhythm to all that. All of that has a pattern, and we are in the fall, and we are in this period where we are considering. So this is kind of like a bonus show. I think that'd be a fun thing to call it, the bonus show.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yes.
Yeah. So today we were talking about human virtues, and I'd just like to reference. We were reading from the topic that said, truthfulness is the foundation of all human virtues. Okay, and so that was a statement that we were working from, and so we were like, oh, well, if truthfulness, we knew what truthfulness means, but then when we got to the foundation, which is the building block, and then it said of all human virtues, we were like, well, what are human virtues, right? So we actually have a human virtues poster in our class, and it lists, I would say, at least 56 characteristics that are virtues. And so we went over 3 today, and what we did was we tried to apply the fact of does the truthfulness actually need to be part of virtues? Is truthfulness a foundation for virtues? So, of course, we had to look at the words, right?
Well, that's what the word said. This is from one of your text. that you use with the JYG, that is utilized as a reference. You have writings that support this. This is a statement that was made by Baha'u'llah.
Yes.
And so this is a quote that happens to be a biblical quote. For those of you that might be tuning in and not really know what this is, we may refer to Gandhi, or we may refer to Martin Luther King, any given writer or any given
artist or whomever who is expressing a degree of truth. You know what I mean? And we'll hold it up to the light of truth.
Right.
You know, and in this case, like you were saying, this comes from out of the Baha'i text. You know, and it's written for this social period that we're in right now.
Yes.
Because it is written for a cycle.
Right.
Okay, and it is written for the newness of the cycle.
Yes.
Okay, and so in it they're saying, as we rebuild our societies, truthfulness is the foundation of all human virtues, because we want virtuous leaders.
All human virtues.
Right.
All. That's a one big word.
Yeah.
Truthfulness. It wasn't enough to say truth, but the fullness of the truth. And ness is like the whole office of it.
Right.
So it's all about the truth. And so that means the foundation
of all these
is
human
truth.
virtues.
So
right.
without truth,
these virtues would fall. Okay, so let's look at so today in our class, we know I'd say class, it seems like a class sometimes because we learn so much, but it's a discussion where people get to open up so that we can become these leaders for this new society, which by the way, everyone is asking for. Everyone is asking for volunteers and youth who are prepared to become leaders. Well, guess what? That no leader is good without truthfulness. We have tons of examples of bad leaders, and we're not here to talk about people. So we're just going to virtues. What makes a good leader? So we had to discuss what are these virtues we're supposed to have.
So let's get to that. So we know our foundation. Our foundation is truthfulness, being the foundation of all human virtues. And the virtues are things that there's a long list, I understand, like 50.
There's more than 50. We did 3 today, so we'll talk about the 3 that we did
today. And
today.
this is again in the writings of the Baha'i writings. And so one of the words you mentioned was mercy. So with mercy, wow, you have to recognize so many things, but in particular, mercy it's an action that involves an individual where they may have a mercy that is extended to them, and they may also exercise mercy. So I mean, wow, that must have been all over the place when you guys discussed that. What was the consensus of the youth?
Well, at first we weren't sure what mercy was. You always hear it. We say these words so callously. Have mercy on me. There's a game called Mercy when you squeeze each other's hands, and then the person says, mercy, mercy, and then you let them go. There's mercy. Mercy comes in any way. There's rap songs with Mercy Lagos, all these different things, so we crack a few jokes.
Got those gospel songs.
But then we got to, what does mercy mean? What does mercy mean?
Yes.
And so wait, what is mercy? What is mercy? What is mercy?
Mercy, as I would see it, would involve something was going to happen. Something was going to happen, and it was maybe not going to be such a good thing to happen. And when it happens is one thing, but when it doesn't happen, you feel as though there's a bit of grace. I understand how people put together grace and mercy, and them being the twins. I know that's something that they say in circles of, I'll know in the African American church, there's songs that speak to it, and pastors who have referred to it. But grace and mercy, bringing us through as if they are the twins. They hold you up. So that there would be a time that it would be not such a good time, but because of mercy, something made you just feel as though I'm all right. I can do it. You know, it's just kind of, I can imagine the grace and mercy being like you're hanging like the two hands, you know, but anyway, we want to stay focused with what we have at hand, and it's such a hard thing.
Mercy,
I was hoping you'd
like,
cut in.
Like, I thought you were talking about, I thought you were trying to compute, I'm sorry.
Mercy.
I know.
Mercy.
I know, right?
That would be
I know, that would be
mercy.
mercy, right? Say, I understand, yeah. Yes, it would have. Like
Didn't
that.
Kanye and
mercy
what
is
was that?
a word that implies that something was going to happen to you. You were going to get what you deserved.
Or maybe not what you deserve.
And instead of you getting what you were going to get, they did not give you that punishment.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Instead, because mercy is a word that comes with harshness. Something is going to happen to you that is negative. Okay? And instead of it happening, the person who's going to give you this punishment, they have a change of heart. You know? So we had to discuss first off what is mercy. So people are like, they were just like everyone. Everyone's like, well, what is mercy? So then I had to ask them, have you ever had mercy on somebody? Because sometimes when you ask somebody if they've ever done something, then they can come up with a definition of what it is.
Yeah.
When you asked what happened with the youth didn't know what the hell to say about mercy, right? And it wasn't until I asked them, well, have you ever had mercy on someone? Then they were able to make an inference. Just like all human beings. Like, oh yeah, there was a time when I was supposed to get a spanking, but I did not. And then, and there was a time when I was going to punch my sister, but instead I said, no, I'm going to let it go, And so from there we're like, well, what made you not punish the person? What made you have mercy? What made you? So, and why is truthfulness, more importantly, a virtue of mercy? I mean, do you have to be truthful to have mercy?
Well, you're speaking of the foundational, you're speaking of virtues being foundational.
Well, truthfulness being the foundation of all human virtues.
But of all
so we're asking about the virtues right now, and as mercy being a virtue, how does truthfulness apply to mercy?
Well, I mean that's. Are you asking me?
Yes.
I mean, you're
what we're talking about.
You're in the class. So.
Yeah. That's what we're discussing about it. They're like, oh, well, how does? Well, I mean, do you have an idea or maybe?
Well, I didn't know if you were presenting on with the class.
That's what we're talking about.
Okay.
Yeah. Do you have an idea of how truthfulness would apply to mercy? No. Yes. Well, I'm just saying. I'm thinking it through myself, and I would say, oh well.
It's a good question.
You have to be truthful to be actually merciful on someone, right? Like when we were talking about it, we realized that why we did not actually punish the person or hurt the person or harm the person is because we realized that we made the same mistakes that they made. And if we were in the situation where the roles were reversed, how would we want the person who's getting ready to give us what we deserve to treat us? How would we want them to treat us?
You know what all this is making me think about, and I think this is what's really stumped me, is all of these virtues that we will speak of, there will be different perspectives. There will be different perceptions of words as they go forward, and even our audience might be sitting there thinking, what are they talking about? Mercy. People might be thinking, of course, I know the answer what mercy is, and others may be thinking, gosh, what does that word, if I were asked what that word means, what would it mean? And I'm a person who respects words very much so, and so really as we talked about these issues earlier, but to put it in perspective, I want to make sure our audience knows where we're coming from when it comes to mercy. Speaking of mercy, the noun, according to the Webster's dictionary, because I just pull it up just to give us something that is going to keep us focused. We are looking at it being a 13th century word, and compassion or forbearance shown, especially to an offender or to one's subject, to one's power. So that's the thing. I think that's what had me stumped at the beginning, is because sometimes you're not subjected by someone specifically in mercy. It may not be an individual who is persecuting you, for example. It may be that you are just a person that maybe you've contacted some illness. like the flu. You know, it's the season of the flu right now. So people might be having different types of symptoms that they've experienced because of having a cold or because of allergies and because of flu vaccines that a lot of people are being mandated at this point to have. And so you think about the mercy that can occur when the human body is able to fight some of these different things that are going on that are a part of the season. So in that aspect, you would say that mercy was extended to you, but it was not per se any individual that had authority over you, per se, an individual, right? But with mercy, sometimes it would be like a bill collector. So I just feel so much more anchored just to be able to consider what the word means, that they look at mercy being compassion or forbearance that is shown, especially to an offender or to one subject to one's power. So mercy, yes, sometimes you will beg for mercy, right? Sometimes you will just be blessed because of favor. That's a Merriam-Webster again. That helps me to feel more anchored in what this virtue is all about. So now as I consider the word mercy, I think about those two things. I think about things that happen daily, that I realize that it didn't have to go better. It could have went worse, right? And when I'm in that position where I may be the individual or a person responsible for something that's going on, right? I say there's no TV tonight, just to say that abruptly. I'm a mother of 6, so I could say something like that, and some people might understand and relate to that type of authority that you may assume at certain times. At certain times, you may show mercy. You may say, you know what? I really, in my mind, I might be feeling some kind of way, but instead, I will extend mercy. I won't have to toot my horn that that's what I was doing, but I can know within myself that mercy that I extended.
Extending bedtimes, letting people stay out longer than they should. All of those things are definitely part of mercy that you can, because it says under the authority of. And it is always a thing where the person who's getting mercy was going to get something. And the person in power, or the person who had the ability to give them that thing, changed their mind. Had forbearance.
Right.
Okay, bearing.
Forbear.
And you know what I'm saying?
Yes, they understood and connected.
They connected all of a sudden. Yes. They said to themselves, you know, every once in a while I like to stay up late and watch TV. Let me let my kids do it. You all of a sudden, your brain clicks into, hey, you know what? It's okay to be okay. You know what I'm saying? It's okay to be cool. You know what I'm saying? It's temperate. It's a weird. It's an actual spiritual thing.
For you to be merciful.
Right.
So that we've got a couple of other ones, and
perspective is the next one.
And
my wife kept saying,
we were a little rough.
Perspective. So that's good, because our next virtue. Well, we know what truthfulness is a virtue, is the thing that we're connecting to. So we're going to try to make sure we connect how truthfulness is a foundation for perspective. You know, truthfulness is definitely a foundation for mercy, because if you don't say to yourself, you know, every once in a while I wanted to watch TV late, you'll never let somebody else watch TV late. You'll never give them that mercy. You know what I'm saying? So it's true. You have to be true. And then now let's go into the word perspective. What does perspective mean? Yeah,
now you guys, what did you cover in your class then? Did you have any input for that before we hit on it?
Yeah, like our youth brought up some very good points. You know, the youth leader, Ontario, he mentioned that perspective is the view, is one individual's view of things going on. You know what I mean? And so, as a virtue, you know what I mean, how, you know, we were talking about how it is that you have to be able to see things from other views, because perspective is a view. You know, but as a virtue, that means that you can see things from views. You know what I mean? Instead of just your view. So then we were so you have to be and then we were like, well, how does truthfulness apply to seeing things through your eyes?
So you would have to perceive truth. And of course, perceive and perspective, the thing that they do have in common is that prefix of per. So when we look at the word perspective, then I wanted to keep in the same dictionary there but I want to just quickly just make sure that we touch on it. With the perspective again, it is, it takes us back to the same period. Well, actually this one is more archaic, 14. Get to it. But I'm not able to, my technology is failing me, so let's just think about perspective as the way that you see things. It is your focus. It is rooted in the way that you see things. So if you're inclined to be truthful, then you may have a certain type of perspective. But when you're exercising your perspective and you are being perspective, that virtue that you would be exhibiting would be that of a person who is sound in the way that they are perspecting. The way they see things, not the way they believe things are, because that would be more perceptive.
Yeah, because perspective is seen.
Perspective. This is a noun. Yes. We are speaking of a noun. Actually, that's one thing that I did notice before my technology failed me, is that it is the way that you see. It is a specific way, and so many of you might think about how you're very stern and you're very, very, very true to certain things that you believe. Certain things that you believe, you may be so tuned in on that. Like if you believe that the toothpaste should be closed completely properly and clean around the nozzle every time after every use, squeezed appropriately, the story goes on and on. But if you are in that situation where you are just perceiving a certain way, you have a certain perspective of the way that things are, then you are going to have to be trustworthy. You're going to have to be able to see clearly. You're going to have to be able to see a certain way and know the truth in that knowledge of seeing it.
Yeah, I think like since truthfulness is like a foundation, right? Yeah, you're really going to have to, in your perspectiveness, or when you're trying to be perspective, trying to visualize things, you're going to have to be open to seeing the actual truth, like you were saying. Like you just can't see a human being. Like I work in the school system, and an example that I would have to use is that if I see someone that's failing, I can't just look at them for the fact that they're not doing their homework. They're in class cutting up. You know what I mean? Sometimes to be perspective, I have to figure out why they're cutting up. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And then it shows me all these different views of the actual child, mm-hmm. and then I get to see that they're neglected, maybe, mm-hmm. or they're being bullied, and so they're trying to reach their identity. Mm-hmm. So perspective allows me to have when I'm teaching this individual,
mm-hmm. your ability to see that.
I can see what's ailing them, mm-hmm. and I can try to put a shield around mm-hmm. them so that they can actually learn. Mm-hmm. Because if I'm not seeing the bullying, then I can't really stop the bullying, mm-hmm. so that they can learn. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Perspective, seeing the truth. You know what I mean?
Right.
Seeing
and exercising.
Right, and then exercising.
So in that per.
Yeah.
Is I was looking at. I was able to get that perspective because I wanted to go to the means or the agency or through something, and that's what the per part of that spective. Because we know what is spective is like your eyeglasses, they're spectacles. They're able to allow you to see, right? Mm-hmm. And the perspective, which is a preposition, the PER itself, is what actually connects you with that ability to use something. And in this case, it sounds like we all have the ability to look at something and be able to see it a certain way, and to realize the truth. Because it is foundational, correct? Right,
exactly, and then operate on the truth. Mm-hmm. And the last word was acceptance. Mm-hmm. That was our last word that we got through. That is a virtue, acceptance.
Yes.
And so these words they came together pretty nicely. Yes, because what I mean. When you think first you have to have mercy, and then you have to have perspective. Mm-hmm. Then you have to have acceptance. You know, and
Acceptance.
truthfulness and first off, acceptance is a virtue, and truthfulness is a foundation.
Yes.
You have to be truthful
It is
to
the
accept stuff.
foundation.
I mean, we're talking about, you know, how is it that you, like, it is very hard for people to accept things. Like, for instance, we have to accept that our show has to be over in 3 minutes, and that we have to accept that we may have went over in some subjects where we wanted to go under in some subjects.
Yes.
You know, we don't know how we wanted the show to be, you know, but we have to accept that it's going to be what it's going to be when it's going to be that way. You know what I mean?
And that's virtuous.
It's
And that means
virtuous.
it's truthful, and truth is enough. Truth is enough, so we can accept that. Acceptance is something that's probably the best word that we can easily just say, that most people know what it is to accept something. So if you are said, it is told to you, oh, you have $1 million check waiting here. I know no one has any trouble with accepting
that. I know that's right.
accepting.
Right.
That's something that you could just say, okay, to,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, I think it's very hard because, you know, we were talking about that with the youth, and, you know, accepting stuff is very hard to do. Because no one wants to hear the word no.
Be.
You know what I mean? You know,
There's a whole different.
It's when it's not, because normally when it's something that you can feel good about, you want to take it, like you said earlier.
Yeah.
Hey, sure, who wouldn't accept $1 million check?
Yeah.
But no one's going to accept $1 million bill.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Hey, let the water company send you $1 million bill. You're like, what the? I ain't taking it. Guess what? You didn't accept that.
Yes.
But what if you did waste that much water? What if?
Yes.
What if, because your perspective was off? Because you did not ever look underneath your house to see that water has been draining. You know what I mean? All these things. What if it turns out that there was something going on that was wasting water, or a neighbor was siphoning off your well? There's some reason. You know what I mean? 'Cause
You would have to accept it to a certain degree.
Right.
correct?
But acceptance is a virtue. And you know, the reason why this thing is very deep, and we only have like 2 minutes or 3 minutes, and it's something that we always talk about, being people who have to work in a faith-based area. Like, you know me, I like to say, what if, you know, like what if you know a crackhead, right? What if you know a thief? Okay, better yet, what if your child is failing school, right? You have to accept the fact that they're failing school, so that you can actually be truthful. You have to be truthful about it, so that you can actually help them.
Yes.
You can't not accept it. You can't. So many things that you cannot accept, because if you don't accept it, you'll never actually work with it.
Yeah.
You never treat it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. That makes me think of that great quote, and we'll touch on it another time, but that serenity prayer speaks of that too. So anyway, y'all have been, thank you for being here.
Free yourself from the fetters of this world. Loose your soul from the prison of self. Seize your chance, for it will come to you no more. Oh, my people, you've got to free yourself. Oh, my people, you've got to free yourself. Oh, my people, you've got to free yourself. I see you down on your hands and knees, sifting through dust, looking for diamonds. Oh, my people, you've got to free yourself. You're searching high and low, from the mountaintop to the valley. You know you won't find them, yeah. Oh, my people, you've got to free yourself. Woo, free yourself from the fetters of this world. Loose your soul from the prison of self. Seize your same. You've got to free yourself. You've got to free yourself, yourself. Come on, you've got to free yourself. Oh, my people, you've got to free yourself.